Yo, Chuck.
What the chuck is up, YouTube? In this video, we're going to go over the happy number algorithm. And the happy number algorithm, as you can see, is just a way of square summing the individual digits in a number. So here we have 19. I'm squaring 1 and I'm squaring 9, and then I'm adding those two together. So we're calling that a square sum. And we're basically trying to say, if we continuously square sum a number, does it eventually equal 1? If it does, we want to return true. If it doesn't, we want to return false. So 19 would be a happy number, but 20 wouldn't. So that is basically the problem statement. Let's hop over to the code. So the first thing I want to do is make some type of function to do the square sum of these numbers. So let's come in here and make a function called square sum. It's going to take a number, it's going to return that number, and then let's console log this out. Square sum, and let's pass in a number like 19. Okay, now I'm going to run this code, and we're just returning 19. Perfect. So to do this square sum logic, what we need to do is just make this number into a string at first and then into an array. So I'm going to do that here. I'll say toString, and then I'll use the split method. And now we should have some type of array. So you can see we have an array, but the values are not numbers, they're strings. So we can fix that with the map method, which returns an array. So a new array. So I'm going to use map. Okay, and then when I return a value on map, I want to transform it into a number. So I'm going to pass in this number method that's built into JavaScript and then put in I. So I just represents the item that we're scrolling over or we're parsing. So I'm saying, hey, every item I want to transform into a number. So if I do that, we have 1 and 9, and you can see they are numbers now because they are yellow instead of this string format. So that's good. We've split the number up. Now we just need to add it together. So I'm going to use the reduce method now. And this is going to take two parameters, A and C. A is going to be the accumulator, or like the accumulated value, and C is just going to represent the current value. So a current value would be like 1 or 9, for instance. So I'm going to use this, and then I'm going to say A plus equals C. So all my current values get captured in this A. And then when I do that, you'll see we're adding the final value. And that's basically all we need for this square sum, right? Because we're just taking a square sum of two numbers and then adding them together, boom. Or however many digits you have to split up. So we've created the square sum function. Now we can actually make our happy number function. So we'll say happy number. It's going to take a number. So how is this going to work? Well, we should make an edge case. If happy number is 1, then we know it's good. So we'll say if num equals 1, return none. Something like that. Because that is what we're testing for. We want to see if we can eventually get to 1 if we use our square sum method. So we can actually just loop through the data, but before we do that, let's just console out the happy number function just to make sure it's firing. We'll pass in 1 just so it returns 1. Okay, cool. So we need a type of loop that's going to check and run our square sum function infinitely until it hits 1 or it doesn't. So what I'm going to do is actually make a variable called set, and that is going to be equal to a set data structure. And if you're familiar with sets, you can only put in unique values in a set, okay? So I'm going to make a while loop, and this is going to run infinitely. We're going to use a condition of true, so this is never going to stop running unless we give it a reason to kick out. And I'm going to say if number equals 1, I can actually just copy and paste this logic because we're always going to run this loop. So if number equals 1, return num. Or if set has num, return false. So basically, if the number has already appeared in our set, then we know this will never become a happy number that reduces down to 1 because it's continually repeating itself. And then in the middle here, I'm just going to say num equals square sum and then pass in num. Okay? And that's pretty much it. Yeah, and then we return true. Okay. Let's see. Actually, it should return true if num equals 1. My bad. We don't want to return the num if it equals 1. We want to return true because that's what we're testing for. Does this number eventually become 1? So that's the logic. It's not too bad. Let's test it with 19, which we know is a happy number. So if I put in happy number of 19, we get true. What if I put in 20? This should return false. Looks like we went to an infinite loop. Why did we go to an infinite loop? Oh, you know what we forgot to do is add this to the set. So basically what's happening is I'm square summing and then I'm not actually adding it to the set. Every iteration of this, we need to set.add the number, but we'll do it after the if check. So say set add num. Okay. Now since I broke my computer, let's do this again. And there we go. Now when we run 20, it should return false. 19 should return true. Okay. I believe 2 is false. That sounds about right. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just to double check, we can actually do some console logs. So for 19, it is a happy number. So when we hit 1, we want to return true. Let's console log the number as it transforms just to see what happens. So you can see we go to 19, 10, and then 1. And the 1 is from the squaring of that 100. And you add those together, the square sum. Let's actually console log after the square sum just to illustrate this. Yep, 10 and then 1. That's what we become, is the 10 and the 1. That makes sense. Okay, so that is the happy number function. You can see we're just making a square sum function, something to do that square sum logic you see here. And then we're making a set and we're adding those square sum values every time to our set right here. We're adding it and then we're adding it to the set. And we're checking if this equals 1, then we know it's a legitimate happy number. But if it doesn't equal 1 and it actually has already occurred in our set before, we know that number will never be a happy number because it will keep repeating itself. So let's do 20, which we know is false, but let's do some console logs to see what 20 becomes here. Looks like it gets stuck on 2 repeatedly. Okay, so there's an instance where it's not a valid happy number. It'll keep repeating itself, and that is why we have this set check. That is the essence of the happy number function. If you guys found this video valuable, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.